Hello there, how you doing? I've seen this tag done by a couple of channels I've subscribed to, Nix and Nax and Rihanna Toria, and I think that they got it from someone called FK Vlogs. A couple of people I know on YouTube, Forca Brawl and DVD Collector from 1974 had done videos recently on their favorite trilogies and franchises, and that was some of the questions on this tag. So I thought I'd just do the whole tag and sort of incorporate all of these answers into one thing. This is called the About Me movie tag. And it's right up my alley. It's a good way to tell you a little bit about something about myself. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that I'm doing a quick contest this week. If you follow the link to my Facebook page below and send me a message, the contest basically is take 3 characters played by the same actor or actress, 3 different characters from 3 different films or TV shows they did, and have all the characters meet and do something. I just got my first entry last night, which is really exciting. It's by one of the most revered actors, it's featuring characters from one of the most revered actors in film history. A pretty great entry. I'm hoping to get a few more. And the prize is a custom video for me. Whoever gets the most upvotes on their entry gets a video from me on whatever they want. Yeah, please go over to my page and like it and send me a message by the weekend, and I'll make a video soon with all the entries. That'll be fun. So the About Me movie tag is just basically stating a few facts about myself. Some of these I've actually answered in previous videos, but it has been a while since I've done one of these. So first of all, the first question is, what's my name? And that's Scott. In school I went by Shakes sometimes. Some people I was in theater with came up with the name Shakes for me. I'm not really sure what came of that, but I really liked having a nickname. It made me feel really cool. How old am I? I'm 41. I turned 42 in April. I was born in 1973, and I actually spent a year and a half recently watching 1973 films. My favorite film from that year is The Friends of Eddie Coyle with Robert Mitchum, and there's quite a few that I really liked, but that was the best of the lot, I felt. Do I go to school now? No, I don't. I went to high school and I took some film courses after that. Not in school right now. Do I have a job? Fortunately, yes. I went for a few months without a job, but now I'm working at this hotel right here on the night shift, so I have lots of free time in between doing various things, and so I have time to make a video here and other stuff. What started my love of film? I like to think that I was born with it. Some things just naturally appeal to people. Some people are just really into cars, they're really into swords, they're into music, they're into history, they're into science, what have you, they're into politics, and I'm really into movies. But not just movies, more like visual storytelling, and that encompasses television, music videos, commercials, things like that. I've always been fascinated with storytelling. I was a big reader when I was a kid, but movies were particularly exciting because of the way stories are told, and enhanced and made more exciting through camera angles and editing and things like that. I've been thinking in terms of that sort of visual coverage for a long time, and these days when I read a book, I tend to imagine particular actors as the characters and actual camera angles and cutting within the scenes. It's just something that kind of comes natural to me. Has ever since I was a kid. So yeah, I don't know what it was that started it, but something in me intrinsically is a lover of film. What was the first movie you remember watching? Now this is tough because I actually have information on the first movies that I saw, but I don't actually remember going. The first movie I ever saw was The Rescuers, the Disney animated film, and after that I saw the original Star Wars film. But the first movie I actually remember going to see was on a double feature. The second movie in the double feature was Star Wars, so I was excited to see that. But before that, it was a Zorro movie. And the reason why I remember is because I specifically remember a scene in which Zorro busts a guy out of a cell with stone walls, and then he takes his rapier and makes scratches a Z into the stone wall to let these guys' captors know that it was Zorro that busted him out. That was kind of exciting. And I remember seeing movies after that and asking questions with my dad about it afterwards. My most common question was, "So Dad, how long was that movie?" He goes, "Oh, about 2 hours." That was a common exchange. But yeah, and I remember seeing certain movies, but the first one I actually remember seeing at the theater was that Zorro movie. What movies defined my childhood? That's also really easy. Wizard of Oz played on TV around a regular basis. We would watch it every time it came on. Of course, I was utterly enthralled by Star Wars, all the characters, all the spaceships, creatures, what have you. And E.T., of course, was very big as well. That was a really important movie in my childhood. Movies that changed my view of film, well, the good ones tend to either reinforce what I love about a movie or demonstrate something new and exciting. And there's so many movies that have done that over the years. Three in particular that stand out is Back to the Future, which I sort of like figured out what the writer did. You know, the writer pre-planned everything in advance. That's why that movie works so well. Goodfellas by Martin Scorsese, which was a movie that I had never seen a movie edited that way before. You know, everything was just paced like a race, and it moved like nobody's business. And of course, it was fascinating of itself because it's about gangsters. Yeah, the way that story was told was really exciting. And of course, a few years ago, Inception came out, and Inception was a movie that I was just blown away by. I don't know how much it changed my view of film, but it certainly was an innovative concept that was really exciting to me at that time. There's been so many that I've seen that could say changed my view of film in small ways. Not many in big ways. You know, I mean, maybe if the change was too radical, then I might not have appreciated it at the time, whereas maybe I might have appreciated it later. It was sort of a gradual getting used to the idea of what that particular film was doing. Hard to say. Favorite directors? This is a topic I love. David Fincher, Martin Scorsese, Steven Soderbergh, Steven Spielberg, Richard Linklater, Quentin Tarantino, and there's lots of others that I like as well, but those are the big ones. Kubrick, of course, is a director who I find very interesting, but I only really like about half of his movies. The other half I'm not big on. But I probably will grow to like them more. It just depends. Then there's guys like Christopher Nolan and Tony Scott and Bryan Singer and guys who's made movies that I really like here and there. And then there's others that I don't like as much. Paul Thomas Anderson, I just saw Inherent Vice by Paul Thomas Anderson. I can't say that I really love that movie, but it's another movie that might grow on me. We'll see about that. My favorite genres are straight drama. It's the one that is most likely to please me. All the best movies I've seen tend to be dramas. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but it's the most likely to be the one that I'll be satisfied by. And the one that I look forward to most is science fiction, mostly because of, new and exciting visuals, not just effects, but and concepts, sci-fi concepts. Those are always the most fun. My least favorite genre is the romantic comedy, mostly because they're not very exciting and the stakes are too low. I'm just usually not that interested. And the outcomes are really obvious anyway. I mean, especially if it's a comedy. Rare is the rom-com where the lead characters don't get together in the end. I think My Best Friend's Wedding, that doesn't happen. But aside from that, they're almost all the same ending. Have I ever cried during a movie? Yes, actually, but they're always really kind of unusual films. Recently I saw Into the Woods, the musical, and I had a very strong emotional reaction, but I was actually in that show my senior year of high school, so I think nostalgia played into it quite a bit. But I just loved hearing that music again, and I sort of couldn't help, getting wet eyes. Oz the Great and Powerful, the Sam Raimi movie, I wasn't expecting to cry during that movie, that's for sure. But at the end, with the smoke machine and everything like that, I'm like, oh, that was just so exciting. And again, nostalgia's, pretty strong factor there. Aside from that, there are a lot of science fiction movies that sort of had these really crazy situations that really sort of hit me emotionally. The big ones are 12 Monkeys, Dark City, and Deja Vu. I couldn't help but well up a little bit during all three of those movies, at the least. What's the most overrated movie I can think of? The first one I thought of was Braveheart, which is a Best Picture winner directed by Mel Gibson. I never really liked that movie. I didn't like the way the main character was idealized, and since that time I've really grown to dislike Mel Gibson quite a bit. He's a very unlikable human being. Also, The Shining is a Kubrick movie that lots of people really seem to like. I never really got into it. What's the most underrated movie? There's quite a few small movies that don't get a lot of praise, but I think a movie that got really terrible reviews that I think is quite good is a Kevin Spacey drama called The Life of David Gale. It's directed by Alan Parker. He's on death row. He's giving an interview to Kate Winslet. Yeah, it's just one of those movies that sort of, I just kept thinking about it for weeks afterwards after I saw it. I was so fascinated by what happened. Roger Ebert hated it. He gave it 0 stars. I mean, there were some people who just despised the movie, and I'm just like, wow. You'd think that it was a Transformers sequel, for crying out loud. People are hate it so much. I don't know. The music's really good. They used the music from that movie in a number of different trailers, like Munich and The Artist and Milk with Sean Penn. All those trailers have music from that film in it. Who are my favorite actors? I have lots of them. I could give you a list of 30 actors, and I'd still leave off some ones I really like. Off the top of my head, Kevin Spacey, Samuel Jackson, and Robert Duvall. Of course, there's many others that I like. Who are my favorite actresses? Helen Hunt, Carla Gugino, Susan Sarandon, and of course there's lots of young attractive actresses I enjoy as well, like Reese and Ellen Page and Jennifer Lawrence. They're all cool too. I have actually made long videos on the topic. It was something I did, months back, maybe even last year, I'm not really sure. But if you want like a huge list of actors and actresses that I liked, I'll include links to those videos also in the description. Favorite movie franchises? Well, probably the one that I like the most these days is the Marvel, Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America franchise. They're separate individual movies, but I think we can all assume it's just one big, long franchise because of all the shared supporting characters, and, it's just like, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, focusing on these different characters, and then we had Avengers with a whole bunch of them, and so on like that. That's been, it's a series that I look forward to seeing for many years to come, because of Joss Whedon's involvement, but also because they've turned out to be a lot of fun. I mean, Joss Whedon didn't have anything to do with Thor: The Dark World, but I found that movie to be a lot of fun too, despite the fact that the villain was pretty lame. And the new Captain America movie I really liked, and I'm looking forward to seeing Captain Marvel and Civil War and Inhumans and stuff like that. Infinity War, that'll be really cool. Aside from that, I like the X-Men movies, although some of them aren't great. The last one, Days of Future Past. Let me ask you something, okay? One of the reasons people like Days of Future Past is because it kind of wipes out X-Men: The Last Stand with the Brett Ratner film. But didn't it also wipe out X2? I don't know. That's my take on it. And then, of course, you've got Star Wars and Star Trek, which are two franchises that go back to when I was a kid. In the 80s when I was watching those movies, and the newer ones, well, the new Star Wars movies aren't so great, but that could change, later this year when the new Abrams film comes out. In Star Trek, I like the first reboot. The second reboot, not so much, but hey, the next one after that, the third one with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, hey, could be an improvement. So, and if they actually get to the 5-year mission at that point, then I'll probably end up liking that one more. Favorite movie trilogies. This was another topic that James and Ian covered in their videos. The classic Star Wars trilogy, of course, is a longtime favorite of mine. I really like Scream as well, the first 3 Scream movies. Lots of people don't like Scream 3, but there's some really cool stuff happening in that movie I really like. And although Scream 2 isn't my favorite of the Scream movies, it has a really, really great ending. I just love the big fights and everything like that at the end of that one. The other one would be, of course, the Before trilogy, at least as a trilogy so far, with Richard Linklater directing Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. And it's spanning like 18 years now, and it'll probably go even longer after that, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. Great, probably the best trilogy ever made at this point. If I had to pick one particular favorite movie, it would be Goodfellas, but I also want to mention Back to the Future and The Fly. The Fly is kind of similar to those movies I mentioned earlier, like Dark City and 12 Monkeys, a subgenre that I really became interested in called the tragic sci-fi romance. And The Fly was the first example of this. I just loved The Fly. And it was probably the first movie that I really sort of was interested in a sort of an adult way rather than as, you know, a kid enjoying just the spectacle. I really became fascinated with what was happening there. So yeah, having to pick one particular favorite movie is a tough call. But if I had to say one, it would be Goodfellas. But Back to the Future and The Fly are right up there. The Fly, by the way, is the Cronenberg film with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Least favorite movie? Well, I've got a few of those. Attack of the Clones is quite terrible. Out of all the prequels, it's especially bad. The Rock is a Michael Bay film from the 90s. Everybody really liked that movie except for me and certain close friends of mine. We just thought it was absolute garbage, and Michael Bay has just had one success after another since then, and you know, we just hate it. We just hate him and hate that. Yeah, it's just awful film. I mentioned Reese earlier. Reese is a favorite actress of mine for many years. The very worst movie that she was in was the one with Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar called Cruel Intentions. I mentioned this because it just happened to be on cable a couple nights ago. I watched about half of it, and the acting is terrible, and the dialogue is terrible, and it is like one of the worst things ever, you know. And I'm including Freddie Prinze Jr. comedies in that as well. You ever seen Down to You? Down to You is just one of the most laughably bad movies ever made. But yeah, those in particular stand out. The last question in this tag is, do I plan on working in film? Well, yeah, actually, my brother and I were planning on making an indie movie, and that sort of didn't work out, but I've recently connected with some people who are interested in, like the script that I've written, and are interested in doing it. And so, if everything comes together, I'll be doing that. And that will be exciting. That will be very exciting if it does, because most guys, when they make films, they start out a lot younger than I am right now. I've sort of been of the mind of going, well, you know, the chances of success are really slim. But since, you know, digital cameras and home editing software are so much more affordable now, it's possible for a lot of people to make feature films with limited resources. The whole issue is getting the budget and the resources and the people together to actually do it, the idea justice, whatever it is, so that there's credibility there. But anything could happen, so I'm hopeful that it will work out. And if it does, you all will be the first to know about it. Thanks very much for watching. Appreciate it very much. Don't forget to check my Facebook page for that contest. I'd love for you to enter. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.